is an injustice against you or someone you love or someone you believe in, stand up. Don't sit down on them, if they need you.
Hey up everyone, welcome to Popcorn Planet Pop Culture Justice Live. Thank you all so much for joining in today, and I am here, I'm just so humbled and thankful to be here with friend of the show, Anne Silvers is in the house. Hello Anne, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Hi Steph. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So, what we're going to be discussing today is Johnny Depp could have been saved from Amber Heard by Scarlett Johannson. Now, I did give Anne a little bit of information about what we're going to be discussing today, and Anne was like, oh yeah, we got some things to say about this. So, without further ado, let's crack into it. Before we do so, though, just a big thank you to Elizabeth Raymer for joining and becoming a Popcorn Planeteer today. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support for Andy there. But yeah, let's jump into this. So, this is hot off the heels of Amber Heard. It's now confirmed that she is going to return in Aquaman 2 and The Lost Kingdom as Mera. We broke it down over here on Popcorn Planet, so if you missed out on that video, watch it. Andy does give us a few scoops in relation to that. I thought, you know what? I want to dig a little bit deeper into Amber Heard and her career and how it really all started off. And our friends over on Fandom Wire found this interesting quote, you guys. And this was an interview that Amber Heard had, and this is what she said. She said, "I was far more deserving of my part in the Rum Diary than Scarlett Johannson. She's a good actress, and I respect her, but I deserved to get the role instead of her. If I was going to lose to anyone, she would be a good person to lose to, but the part of Chenault called for an actress, not a famous person. I worked very hard to get the role I auditioned and wrote a letter to the producers and a director about my connection to the part. I'm a big fan of Hunter S. Thompson and an avid reader, so I had something special to offer beyond what was written on the page." Now, Anne, first and foremost, what are your reactions to that quote? Like,
So my first reaction to that quote is, oh, Scarlett Johansson is such a better actress than Amber Heard could ever be. So that's one thing. And also her finding a need to put Scarlett down. Why? Why does she have to do that at all? Except for it fits her personality.
yeah. But this is why I say in the title, it's a little bit cheeky, but there's a little bit of a link that Scarlett Johannson could have saved Johnny Depp from Amber Heard, because if she had just been a little bit better than Amber Heard, she would have got the part. Amber Heard would have never got the part, and then Amber Heard would have never had the chance to really get a clause in a Johnny Depp. However, history is history, right? And we know what happens next. Yeah. Now, the
only thing I would say is I don't think that Amber was actually better than Scarlett, but something got her the job. We don't know what that something is.
Oh, sometimes you're too polite. I love it. I love it. I love it, Anne. I love it, Anne. Okay, well, guys, this is where it starts to get really sinister, okay? So I'm going to show you pictures side by side of Amber Heard and Scarlett Johannson. You're going to be seeing, I would like to say, a bit of a pattern emerge. So here we go. E-News basically calls it out for what it is. All right, the B word stole my look. Scarlett Johannson and Amber Heard, right? Now, bear in mind what Amber Heard had just said about Scarlett Johannson. That quote from our friends from Fandom Wire, okay? So, literally, same updo, the same kind of backless dress. Well, not the same, but extremely similar, all right? Very much, I would like to say, carbon copy. Then we have...
Even the pose is so
Yeah,
exacting. Yeah.
right.
And also, I took a look at this, and because I wanted to be sure. So the Scarlett Johannson event that Scarlett's at there came before the one that Amber was at. I wanted to make sure that the sequence, and yes.
Yeah.
And also the thing about this period of time is that Scarlett had done the Avengers, and it would be 4 more years before the movie Aquaman came out. So I think another thing is that Amber really wanted to mirror Scarlett's career.
Well, we'll see a lot more mirroring in a moment. So here we go. Scarlett and Amber, who looks voguish in the strapless satin dress. All right. Here we go. All right. We got the Golden Globe Awards. Always happens before Met Gala. Okay. So again, we got the before and we got the after situation going on. You've got the same kind of like Hollywood blonde hair, old Hollywood kind of vibe that you've got going on. They're both wearing satin dresses, all right? Very, very similar in terms of what we're looking at here. Let's go one step further. Whew, okay. Pretty much carbon copy in terms of the hairstyle that we see here. Where, you know, it's all pretty much up instead, apart from the tendril that comes down, you know, the left-hand side of a face. Same here with Scarlett Johannson. Let's show you another one. I'm bringing the receipts, guys. I'm bringing the receipts. Now, this is extremely sinister. So, Amber Heard, they're literally calling it out, guys, all right? That E-News one, you know, the whole, the B word stole me look, right? We've got this one, Amber Heard channeling Scarlett Johannson. Like, they're spelling it out for us, guys. This is scary. So this is Scarlett Johannson at the Vanity Fair party back in February 2011, looking absolutely gorgeous in a Dolce & Gabbana dress, which, to be fair, if you're wearing a Dolce & Gabbana dress, it's hard to look like you're pretty much wearing a bin bag, so fair enough. But Scarlett Johannson, she could wear a bin bag and still freaking be absolutely gorgeous, so there is that. But then, a little bit later on down the line, later on in the year, back in October 15th, 2011, whoo! Same line, Dolce & Gabbana. It's just a shorter dress. That's all it is at that point. Let's look at a few more. Now, this is really striking. I mean, again, as Anne pointed out with the previous kind of side-by-side, we've got the same pose again. Similar in terms of the smoky eye makeup, the nude lip, but the hair, in terms of how it is, unmistakable when it comes to carbon copy. Similar one. Here we are. Same thing. Yeah. The hair again. Absolutely scary, guys. And we're going to discuss why this is absolutely sinister in a moment. But I like to bring the receipts, so here we go. And the final one. Like, you can't make this shiz up, really. This is insane, but very, very sinister. So, I suppose to take it away of our friend and expert here when it comes to women and narcissism, and why is this sinister? Why is it that when I saw these side-by-side pictures, like the hair at the back of my neck just went, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and this one is particularly interesting for you to land on because Scarlett had a number of hairstyles that were very her own. And I think this is one of them. And you do see that mimicry. So Dr. Curry in the trial she diagnosed Amber with histrionic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder. And so I want to step back for a minute, and you mentioned narcissism. So borderline and histrionic are both in the same cluster of personality disorders as narcissism. There's a lot of crossover, so a lot of people, use some of the words a little bit interchangeably. And they all have their own little nuances. And one of the particular things that stands out with borderline personality disorder is this idea of mirroring, also called the chameleon effect or mimicking. So these people don't have a direct connection between themselves and their emotions, and they're not comfortable in their own skin. So there's a tendency to pick up the cues from other people and just mimic them. And so they can turn into whoever they want to. And they're studiers of other people, again, because they're disconnected from themselves. So they're absorbing what other people are doing. And I really noticed this in the trial because I began to notice Amber mirroring an outfit Johnny would have worn 3 days earlier. Johnny wears a tie with the B on it, and Amber then is wearing a suit and tie and a B clip. So I started to notice this. And there's also a piece where Johnny talks about, in one of his declarations, he talked about the way that Amber pulled him in was she liked the same things he liked. She read the same things he read. She liked the same music. She liked the same cars. So she mimicked him, and he wasn't aware at the time to be concerned about this, and pulled him in by doing that. It's also called love bombing. It's an element of love bombing, which I believe is part of what, she got a hold of him in rum diaries and love bombed him, mimicked him, and pulled him in that way.
Mm. And in terms of the timeline of all of this and where Scarlett Johannson comes in, so again, I did a little bit of digging. So in terms of the timeline surrounding the rum diary, okay, so Scarlett Johansson had filed for divorce from Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, those two were married back in July 2010, right? And this was finalized in December 2010. Rum diaries were released like a year later in October 2011. So there is an overlap where Scarlett Johansson could have been single at the time that she was auditioning for the Rum Diaries. Amber, being Amber, could have been threatened by that and the competition for Johnny Depp. So she talks about Scarlett, let's say, in a snide way to put her down, but then starts copying her to make her more appealing to Johnny. So talking down the real thing, and for her then to be like the carbon copy to be more appealing than the real thing. It's kind of what I had in my head, Anne. Am I on the right track? Am I off base?
Yeah, I don't know if she saw Scarlett as a competitor for Johnny's affection. I'm not sure about that piece. I do think that she saw Scarlett as somebody. Scarlett is one of the best paid actresses ever. She's very highly regarded. She's got great skills. She's beautiful. She's kind of got everything going for her. And so I think that potentially it was the career thing that got Amber mimicking Scarlett rather than the competition with Johnny. I'm not so sure about that piece. But definitely, I think she was mimicking her. I think that there's stuff out there about Amber mimicking Vanessa Paradis, who was Johnny's former partner. So I think that, yeah, mimicking is a big thing that we can see in Amber's behaviors.
When, borderline personality disorder, narcissist, like Amber mimics, um, do they do it out of fear as well? Out of being threatened by the person that they're mimicking? So they try and mimic that personality to take them over to as an element of, like, say, control. Is that, could there be an element of that potentially with people like her?
Yeah, I think when we see there were a number of outfits that Amber wore during the trial that were mimicking, like I said, something Johnny wore either earlier in the trial or recently before the trial. And so there, I think there's an element of her trying to. So these cluster B people, when their personality disorders are really going strong, because I don't want to minimize it, that people could repair themselves and have the diagnosis, but not be acting out the way that we see Amber acting out. But these people are parasites. And parasites cannot exist on their own. They need a host. And they're looking for a healthy host. Because if they're going to suck the life out of somebody, they want to be high value target. And so I think this is what you see with Amber, is she's like parasitic. She's parasitic to Johnny. She's parasitic in potentially to Scarlett, in terms of almost like they want to align with that person in a way where they are grander than them. They're sucking the life out of that person and taking on the attributes for themselves. I don't know, is that understandable?
Yeah, that is understandable. And why would they do that? Why would they mimic and then suck that life out whilst they're mimicking? Are they doing it to elevate their sense of self, to exert power and authority over the person that, they're mimicking? Is it all of the above? Is it something else that maybe we've not thought of? Like, like the motivations of doing that,
Yeah. So power and control, and like the things that you mentioned, these people, like I said, they don't feel comfortable in their own skin, but they're not conscious of that. And so they're driven subconsciously to feel superior to other people. So, that's why Amber goes out of her way to put down Scarlett in an interview where there just was no business bringing Scarlett up. But she has to, because they don't feel good about themselves inside. They have these urges to put themselves above other people or bring other people down. So when I'm explaining this and what low self-esteem does, I have a chart. So it's this very simple chart with a line down one side and one line across. That's your baseline of healthy self-esteem. Healthy self-esteem is I am lovable and capable. And I believe anybody can get there. Now, when you feel not lovable and capable inside, this is a subconscious thing. Healthy would be, oh, I don't have high self-esteem. How do I improve my self-esteem? And you do the work it takes to get to the baseline. But there's quick fix, and some people will just hang out down in low self-esteem, and it gets in the way of them feeling confident, etc. Some people use quick fixes. So now let's imagine baseline healthy, they're down here, and they see somebody who's up here, above them. Now that's super uncomfortable. So there's some quick fixes to rectify that. One is plummet this person. So you say something bad about this person, you put this person down. And for those moments that you created this difference, you feel good about yourself. Another way is to become boastful and put yourself above that other person. My boat's bigger than your boat. I got, Amber saying, I got the job because I'm such a superior actress to Scarlett. Because in reality, she sees her inside, she feels herself down here, and she sees Scarlett up here. So she's driven to rectify that.
Wow. And, I did, ever since, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, meeting you and, reporting a lot on Meghan Markle on my own channel, which I believe she's an absolute epic narcissist as well. The one thing that I find in terms of my research with these kind of people is that, every article I'm reading, they're saying what you've said as well, which is they have low self-esteem. They don't have like their own identity, which is why, this whole mimicking situation tends to happen quite a lot with people that have narcissistic traits, tendencies, disorders, that kind of thing. Why is that? Is it because something from the childhood, or they're just born that way, they're wired that way? Like, has anyone really got down to the bottom as to why that's a common thing with them all?
So what I see is people often ask that why question, whatever it might be in psychology when we see how people behave. And one of the key answers is there's many potential reasons. And so, yeah, it could be a difficult childhood. It could be a childhood that where some, let's say we have a female narcissist or cluster B person. Yeah, maybe that person had a difficult childhood. Maybe that person was pedestalized as a child. They're treated as a princess. And so they have these ideas as they move into adulthood that people should serve them in some way. Person could have been bullied. Person could have, there's also genetic components to things. A person could have a lack of skills on how to deal with their own low self-esteem. They might have had a trauma in their life. There's really a lot of potential reasons why somebody might start with these behaviors. And then what happens is they work for them. So they get better and better and better at using these manipulations, etc., because there's payoffs for them. And then looks like one of the things we see with Amber is her getting her joining with Me Too. So then her personality disorder is just loving that attention and admiration, and it feeds her. And it feeds that part of the dysfunctional personality, but it's functioning. It's functioning for her, but it's harmful to lots of other people. But it gets fed. So when these people get believed, when they're lying and manipulating, that feeds that negative behavior, and they become more and more grandiose with those behaviors. So we see in Amber, her lies became more and more extravagant as people bought into her stuff.
And so if someone out there is experiencing a similar situation where they have an Amber Heard or someone who is mimicking them, copying them, doing, allegedly, what Amber Heard was doing with Scarlett Johannson, what the deuce do they do, Anne? What do they do in that scenario, that situation?
So the best you can do with the cluster B personality disorders is just get away from them. Because we need to remember they're not driven by rational reasoning. These are subconscious drives inside of them. And so you can't, there's no point in addressing it with them and expecting a change. Just get away if you can, and don't take it personally. So it's different if you're in a relationship with these people and you've got entanglements, that makes it harder. But if you're not that entangled, just try and put it aside, look the other way, let them own that stuff. That's theirs. And you move on with your life.
And even if you are entangled, even though it's easier said than done, still baby steps to get away from them in the end, either way, right?
Yeah, I mean, if sometimes these people can repair, and so we have some special programs for people in the cluster B personality disorders DBT, a dialectic behavioral therapy, is the most common, and it's becoming more and more common to use it as a therapy. It's intense. So the patient, let's say, has to be engaged in this therapy for about 2 years for it to be effective. So you have to, if you're in a relationship with somebody who has a cluster B personality disorder, then you have to look at, do they have any motivation to change? Do you see any evidence that they're going to change? Do you have, strong reasons to stay? Like if there aren't children, you got less reasons to stay. If there's children, you got more reasons. But what you're looking for is evidence that the person with the personality disorder is highly self-motivated to fix that. They see that they are the problem, and they show signs that they're going to stay at it. Even given that, especially if you don't have children with them, you don't need to be up for all that. You can potentially move on with your life and let them be self-motivated and fix themselves. You don't necessarily have to be there to be their helper. Again, if you've got children together, way more complex decision making.
They do say that, copying someone is the highest form of flattery. However, sometimes it's not, guys. Sometimes it can be a very sinister, potentially dangerous situation. And so, guys, if you want to know more, first and foremost, go on to annesilvers.com. I know the Kick-Ass mods have been sharing the links throughout. Please click on them. First and foremost, get Anne's book, Abuse of Men by Women. It happens, it hurts, and it's time to get real about it. It really is, because nearly a year after the Johnny Depp trial, where he was absolutely vindicated, people are still siding with Amber Heard to this day. The mainstream media is still doing it. Warner Brothers still letting her be part of Aquaman 2. Even in the smallest part, don't care. They're still letting her a part of it. This is a problem. It is real. You want to hear from the expert herself, and get this book now. Read it. It opened my eyes. It's going to open your guys' eyes. I'm telling you that right now. Also, as well, give her a friendly follow on Twitter, will you? At Anne Silvers. She's on 8,000 followers at the moment. Can we get to like 9,000, 10,000? Get her into that 5-figure scenario.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Let's get it done, Popcorn Planeteers. Let's get it done indeed. With that being said, I am going to clip it here for the YouTube portion. Everyone that's staying live, do not go anywhere. On your way out, if you are watching on the replay, make sure you subscribe, turn the notification bell to on, like this video because, I said so. Comment down below your opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever. And why not join today? For as little as $5.99 a month, become a Popcorn Planeteer, and you get extra content from the man himself and his Ignore. Why not, right, guys? With that being said, though, those on the replay, thank you very much for watching. Everyone watching live, stay exactly where you are. But here are some videos in the meantime that you may enjoy. Clickety click, clickety click.